Hey y'all, welcome back to Homestead in the City. I'm Zach, and today gonna tour my garden. So the whole purpose of having a garden is really to feed us and our neighbors, and we love to do that up here at our patio at the top of the orchard and food forest area that we're about to see. By that patio, we've built this pond, which our dog Percy helped us build. We dug out this planter area, we lined it with chicken wire and concrete, and then have filled it in with water, and we just run these fountains to it. Still a bit of work in progress, but the frogs have already come in, and look at that. We got some little baby frogs hopping around, tons of tadpoles in the water. We got some goldfish too. And that pond and all of our others is fed by this well pump, which thankfully we already had the well when we moved in. We just had to buy a new pump. And so we can get clean water a lot more cheaply, and we don't have to store rainwater. And so one of the things I use it for, I run it in this gutter right now, and it runs down to this little kiddie pool for our chickens. And back here in the back corner is the top of our chicken run. And so they get the whole back side of the yard. The two of our chickens down here are two barred rock twins. They sleep up in this tree. Patricia, our red one, she sleeps over on top of that shed. She gets out of the fenced area every night and sleeps up there. But the two barred ones, they sleep up there, and they poop down on here, which is one of our big compost piles. Right now it's not too big, but what I'll do periodically is just rake up all the material in here, and it'll get a few feet high, and then they will just tear it down looking for the bugs in it. That's how they eat for the most part. They do have that trash can that has some feed that supplements them, but then they also have access to eat throughout here in the chicken tunnel where they're protected, the chunnel. And this is made of cherry laurel trees that have been bent over and then grow vertically. And then they just fill in super nicely and make this great hedge and a tunnel that protects our chickens from predators. And so they have lots of space to run around. They can forage for food. And at the end, we get some great compost. I also rake it like downhill this way and pile it up about here. And then this is a little section that I can open up as a door and pull that compost pile out and use it over in the rest of the garden. So I walk back uphill. So another reason why we built the chicken run back here is we're at kind of the top of the elevation of our yard. So as it rains and everything, rainwater is going that way towards the garden. And so any nutrients that are built up in here will just, if they wash away, they're gonna wash away into our gardens from the chicken run. And so right outside of our chicken run is our food forest area. And so this kind of separates them. If you're visiting in our backyard and we don't take you all the way back there, you might not even realize chickens are running around in there. But this is the food forest area. We've got banana, we've got this big mulberry that is taking off this year. Back in here, we've got a persimmon tree. We've got elderberry. I know we've got a chestnut in there somewhere. We've got loquat in here. We've got plum. Down here, I believe this is some turmeric. We've got hazelnut. We've got a ton of stuff just growing really densely in here. And here's that kind of door area of the chicken run where that compost piles up. And so right here you can see chicken run, food forest, chunnel, food forest. And so that is a much less kind of pruned and managed area of trees and bushes. And then over in the center, we have our orchard. And it might be a little hard to tell on camera, but we are starting to prune these trees a lot more up to around head level or so that the fruit will be growing right over our heads, and then trimming down to what will be like the bush levels, probably maybe some blueberries and whatnot in here eventually, and then having more of a clear kind of middle cut here, so we have a kind of a visual corridor through there, whereas the food forest is just completely filled in. And at the very top of the orchard, we have Percy's digging pit, and right above our orchard we have a flight path. So where Percy digs down, you can kind of see where the original soil was and how sandy it was. And we have just piled up tons and tons of wood chips, and Percy digs, mixes those in with sand, and they break down, and they're turning into this great soil, which we haven't put wood chips in here for a while, so everything's really broken down. And then we've got this path through here. Over time, as he mixes it in, it kind of makes its way downhill. Either as he digs, it gets thrown down here, or I'll rake it. But that's what kind of mulches and feeds the whole orchard. So we've got 7 rows here. I'll kind of go through each one. This is row 1. It's our least developed. We have a couple of banana trees in here, and then the ground cover is mostly the Sea Island red pea and some strawberry, and maybe a little bit of Virginia creeper. You'll see a lot of that around here. What we just did, yeah, here's some of the Virginia creeper. So the Virginia creeper was already around here, and then the strawberry and peas we added, and that especially the peas are really just for being a living mulch, and then chopping them down and leaving them there, and they'll compost in place. And they've been building that soil along with that wood chip stuff. And so here in row 2, you can see how that how the orchard shape is starting to really come in. So this fig tree, this is about how big it was last year, and then this year it's gotten big enough that, you know, we can start pruning it more into a tree shape. This peach tree, also, we're able to start pruning it up. Our Cara orange tree is starting to get some more shape into it. And then in row 3, we've got canna lilies and stuff, but the main thing that's doing well here is this peach tree, which it's the Reliance peach. And so we've got maybe about 8 or 10 peaches on this one. They should be ready for eating very soon. We've got another, I think, pear tree or apple tree. The elderberries are coming in, and then in row 4, we have our biggest peach tree, which this is going to be up for a big pruning this year. But we've got tons of peaches all over this one, and I don't know when they'll ripen, maybe in July. And another big banana over here. And so you may know from other videos, the shape of this orchard is kind of terraced along the hill of our yard. And that is just to act to slow down the water that's going downhill around the side of the house, so that it doesn't make its way all the way to the streets, so that it won't erode around the house, and that so that it'll infiltrate in and feed our orchard, water the orchard. We never really water it, except occasionally we'll just spray it down to give that just rained feeling, like we have today when it actually just rained. But yeah, so here on row 5, we've got, actually this grapevine is coming from row 6. We'll see that in a second. But we've got bananas mostly in here in row 5. And then this guy has gotten huge over the last month since we were here. And I actually took out some bananas from this row and used them in the front yard for a project we'll see in a second. Row 6, we've got another apple tree. It's doing okay in South Carolina. My Methley plum tree, which is another one, I'm going to be trimming this stuff around so that the fruit is right here around eye level, and then down below it is going to be more open, and then we might put some like blueberries on either side. Then down here is the grapes growing in on that grapevine. And so it's coming up through here, and then I have it running along this extension cord that's going to the greenhouse and going across this mulberry over into the plum tree and this way. And I'm gonna get it eventually to go over to that elderberry. But that's another kind of reason for the shape of this orchard. That top layer will probably vine stuff through like this grape. So maybe in the next year or two, when we have a little bit more up here, this will also have some more vigorous growth, and we might have some grapes just hanging down between our trees. And then row 7, this is the one where we are doing some pruning in the espalier style. And so that is really kind of making our pear and peach tree here into a 2D shape. And so the idea, I've got this rod running across and I'm tying down the branches. And so we'll do the same probably up here, use one of these and train out another set of branches horizontally, maybe do 2, so that we'll have multiple going horizontally. Those I will trim every year, and so this branch will get thicker and then it'll put off lots of vertical growth. That's where we'll get the fruit, and then we'll just trim off that after it fruits, and then we'll get, that's how it'll start taking its shape. And so that is the orchard area. And then right at the bottom of our orchard, kind of connecting the orchard and the food forest and the chicken run and the greenhouse we'll see in a second, is our fountain pond. I love this place. This was one of the first things we did at the house. The fountain was already here. It was broken, and we had to dig it out. This was all filled in with dirt and stuff, and reseal it where it had some cracks, put a new pump in there, put the pedestal back on, and it was the first place where we had frogs coming in. We added fish. It's got good nutritious water that we can use to water other plants like this laying around. We'll put potted plants around it sometimes just to get water. And so we filled this with well water also. And it also has a valve at the bottom where we can drain it. And then I drain it down here, and it runs through this pipe to this pipe down to this pond. And so this pond I fill from that pond, and that pond I fill from the well. And so this is going to have some of the cleanest, well, not for like human drinking, but some of the cleanest water for the fish and the frogs that are swimming in it, plus all of their nutrients from their waste and from the leaves and stuff breaking down. So this can make for some great plant watering water. I'll just come over here with a watering can, dip it in, and oh yeah, there's my watering can for like potted plants and stuff. And then I will peek inside the greenhouse for just a second. There's not much going on. It's summer, and so I don't spend as much time in here in the summer because it's so hot. But I have this barrel of compost tea bubbling, and what I'll do is take one of the coffee mugs that I leave laying around, and I can just use that to water my plants. Like this pepper plant in here that's growing in my green stalk. And so between that fishy compost tea water and the heat in here, this pepper is doing awesome. It is, you know, what's that, 2-3 feet tall, starting to put off some flowers. Should get some peppers in here. I also like to use the green stalks for propagating trees. I've got a fig tree going right here. Oh, and some sweet potato vines. Where are they coming from? There we go. So I'll probably plant those out pretty soon. But yeah, that's the greenhouse. That's Percy barking at the neighbor dogs. And oh yeah, so here's another one of those peppers. This is just in a grow bag. It's been mostly in the greenhouse. I've put it out here in the rain some and in the pond water, and it's also doing well. All right, now we're making our way out of the backyard through the side yard, and this is really coming along. We're in a sunny morning, so you can really see it well. The elderberry that's right here is acting as a great shade, and I don't have my thermometer with me, but the other morning it was about 9 o'clock, maybe, not even that early, and the brick exposed to the sun had already gotten over 100 degrees, and the brick that was shaded was still down at about 70 degrees or so. So we want to grow up more plants downhill there that will be about this height to really shade the house, and that helps keep the house from getting as hot, and then that means that we need to use less energy to cool it down. And hey Percy, you done barking at all those neighbors? This is our Meyer lemon tree that I am working on espaliering up that side, so that should help too. The plants are starting to kind of grow in. Eventually, this should all just be kind of green, and you won't really be able to see all the way through. And let's see, oh, here is my muscadine on a hook that my parents gave us the other week. Yeah. All right, and then moving into the front yard, first off, up by the house, we've got our memorial garden with our memorial fig tree in there. We've got a ton of figs grown in that. And that tree is really starting to take shape. And I'll probably trim maybe 1 or 2 more layers of the lower branches off and leave this guy, and then next year it will really be kind of a tree shape in front of the house. And then elsewhere in the memorial and flower garden, we've got tons of Jerusalem artichoke and elderberry up there. And here we have lots of bulbs and canna lilies. We've got green, we've got purple, we've got variegated, and then we have stuff like this comb flower, and we've got some coreopsis and some other flowers. So this area mainly helps attract pollinators and stuff. And then it is right beside our raised bed area, and right now it's mostly cleared out. I do have these tomatoes left, and so I'll keep picking on we just have so many tomatoes in here. But that's about it that I have left in these beds, really. And then once I take these out, I'll kind of reset them probably in the fall. It's really too hot to grow a ton in South Carolina right now, and I didn't have things kind of planned out and started. This is our first year growing annuals in these beds, seriously. So this first round has not gone too bad. And then what I'm doing around these beds, I'll need to kind of trim back and redo it soon. But I am just mulching with hay every few weeks or so. And you'll see this grass and stuff is growing up, and the vines from the hill right here, they'll grow around it. But what I'll do is just trim all that and put fresh mulch down. And then over the course of the summer, that's going to be breaking down. And then in the fall, I will just use all of this to mulch the beds, and they'll be really broken down and composting. And then that way, I'm just making on-site compost with like these hay bales. And so if you saw this little bit of equipment under the hay bale and hear that sound, it's because that wiring is going to my Starlink and solar panels up on this hill. We did have to get emergency internet service going because I accidentally cut through our cable while building our newest water feature. And it is still a work in progress, but up on top of our hugelkultur hill, I've got our pump going into this little bucket down through this little channel and into this trough. And right now I've got a log in there and we've got some mushrooms growing on it. We do have fish in there, and then the log is because we've gotten some frogs already and they need somewhere so that they can get out of the water and not drown. And so yeah, this is the newest feature around here. This hill, if you remember, it started off as a pile of trees that were dumped in one of our chip drops, and they were just so big and numerous I wasn't able to move them, so I decided to just kind of lean into the problem and covered the pile of trees with even more and more wood chips, and those wood chips have broken down beautifully. You can see what happens here initially. It is they get covered in mycelium, and so this is loose wood chips that I'm holding up that were all being held together by that mycelium. And so that mycelium, if you're not familiar, that's the underground body of the of like a mushroom. It's a fungus, and so that will eat all of that wood and it turns it into soil. And so some of the older wood chips, as we've dug around and started like working on piling up this hill, you can just see how it's breaking down. And so as that breaks down, it's gonna be great soil for growing more plants. Like we got banana trees in here that we took from out back, like I told you a second ago. We've got some more of those peas growing on. Got lots of flowers that'll be going in here. And so 3 years ago, when we first got the pile of trees, it was a big problem. And now I think it's one of the coolest features. And of course, that was all fed by our mulch delivery driveway. And we have it here dedicated away from our car driveway. And that's so we can get tons of wood chips delivered and not have to worry about moving it right away because it's blocking a car, blocking somewhere else. This is out of the way. It happens to be on top of our gas line, so we know not to dig down here. The reason I dug through the internet cable is because I thought it was about a foot this way under the hill, not outside of the hill where I was digging. But we actually found some cheaper internet, so it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Anyways, over on this side of the mulch delivery driveway, I'm starting to build up these three layers of beds. I'm thinking I'll plant like potatoes or something on top of that. And then on the downhill side of these beds, I started them off by creating a dead hedge back in here, which is hard to tell now, but that is going to hold all that back. So I'm having to watch out because I know we have a lot of poison ivy back in here. Ooh, yep, there's some. So yeah, back in here, you can kind of see that dead hedge. And it's protecting that tree. And it's gonna hold all that organic material back. On the opposite side of the front yard, along the driveway, is our floodwater management beds. These are the ones that we dug down. We dug down from the level of the driveway so that rainwater can drain into here and then infiltrate into the yard. And so we dug out those and piled up the dirt on the downhill side of each of those beds to make these berms. And then in each of the berms, we planted a peach tree. And so this helps slow down the water coming this way. In the beds, right now I've just been planting sunflowers, but we'll probably plant other stuff in the future. And then we already gathered a good bit of peaches off that this year, and it was our first year getting peaches. So hopefully in the future, we'll just have an abundance of peaches right there at our driveway. Then on the other side of the driveway, we've got our berry hedge. Oh, those are really dried up, but you can see we finally got our blueberries in here. We have 6 blueberries in a line here. We've got plenty of other berries in here, like some dewberry. We've got raspberry in there. We've got elderberry. We're gonna put some mulberry, but the idea is for this to just fill in And so where we have like this crepe myrtle now will all be berry bushes and trees and stuff, and just create kind of more shade here, because in the evening that hot sun is coming through here, and so we want to kind of shade this, and just create a little bit of privacy in there. And then finally, up by the street, we've got our community garden. It needs a little help right now, but the idea is for as people are walking through the neighborhood, we do need to add some signage, but they can just pop right off the street right here and grab some herbs or vegetables or something for dinner if they just need a little supplement. And so that is built with community source materials too. The bricks came from a neighbor, the beds came from a neighbor down the street, and so this we just put in a few months ago to kind of test out the concept. We've had a few neighbors come by even without the signage, but hopefully in the future this will just be a kind of known spot in the neighborhood, for people to drop in and be kind of the first point of entry or point of contact to our neighbors. That's all I got for today. See you in the next video.